afternoon, participants. Today we have Professor Ajey Jha with us. Let me introduce Professor Jha. Professor Ajey Jha is founding head of the Department of Management Studies, SMIT, and is associate director and is a professor in the Department of Management Studies at Sikkim Manipal Institute of Technology since February 2000. In addition to having postgraduate and doctoral degrees in business administration, he possesses graduation and post-graduation in pharmaceutical sciences also. He has a very rich and diverse industrial experience as a plant head for 15 years with multinational pharmaceutical companies, teaching 23 years and with international NGO 8 months. He has authored 21 books, 16 international book chapters, 170 research papers, 200 articles of common interest, and has presented 65 research papers in national and international seminars as well as conferences. Apart from it, Sir has also delivered over 80 invited lectures and speeches over different forums. Professor Jha holds 6 international patents and has organized several national, international conferences and seminars. He has coordinated about 60 management development programs and is a corporate trainer associated with Government of Northeastern State, NHPC, National Grid, National Productivity Council, Zydus, Alkemin, CIPLA, and many more. Further, he has successfully undertaken 9 research projects has successfully supervised 14 doctoral works. So, sir, we are heartily welcoming you for this session, and it is a great privilege for us to have a few words from you. So over to you, sir. Thank you.
Is on leadership skill, and at the onset, I would like to thank all the participants for being with us. I'm also greatly thankful to Shalini and the Department of Management Studies from Sikkim University for organizing such a faculty development program. And I sincerely hope that together we are going to understand some aspects of being a teacher. Now, before I go ahead, let me make a request. At some point in between, I will stop, I will take a pause, and then we can have a brief question and answer session. And then I shall begin once again. And after the end, again, maybe we can have a question and answer session. Okay, I'm sure many of you have this question in your mind, that why are we discussing leadership skill in a faculty development program? I would say that, to me, most humbly speaking, teachers are the original leaders. Okay, if you look around, you'll find that almost all the great men, they were inspired by a teacher. Okay, if you talk about Chandragupta, then he was inspired by Chanakya. If you talk about Alexander, he was inspired by Aristotle. If you talk about Karl Marx, he was inspired by angels, and the list is endless. Fine? And it is this leadership of the teacher which I believe has been compromised greatly in our time. Okay, we look upon ourselves as more as, maybe victims of circumstances than looking at ourselves as leaders. And I think that is one reason why we have included leadership skill in a faculty development program. I assure you that as a teacher, you are a leader first and foremost. Next slide, please. Fine. Just to prove my point, I do not know how many of you have seen this movie. It's quite an old movie, To Serve with Love. Now, this is one of the most beautiful movies I have seen regarding a teacher and students. Now, it is about a man who goes over to England to become an engineer, but as immediately there are no jobs, engineering jobs available. So he joins as a teacher in a school, high school. And when he goes over there, he finds that the students are extremely unruly. They are very indisciplined. They have absolutely no motivation for learning. And at one point, he wants to leave. But then suddenly he remembers that maybe these are the people, if he leaves, nobody will ever come to build them, to build their self-esteem, to make, to help them have great careers. And then he stays back and suddenly he realizes that it is not just about teaching, it is about providing an overall leadership, and not to just to the students, but to the entire community, their parents. And then he starts a job and he starts teaching. He becomes a favorite with the students, and later onwards, when he receives his appointment letter as an engineer, and he informs the students that he is leaving, all the students are extremely sad and in tears. And he comes out of the room and tears down that letter, appointment letter, and decides to be a teacher. I will urge all of you, if you get a chance to watch this movie, please watch it, because you will find it inspiring. Fine? Next slide, please. Now, what happens? Generally, we divide leaders into transactional leader and transformational leader. And therefore, when I talk about the leadership skill, I think I must introduce this term, two terms for you. A transactional leader is, as the name suggests, he believes in transaction. He believes in give and take. Okay, he asks for your obedience, your discipline, and then he provides you with the resources so that the task can be accomplished and productivity can be had. Fine. Next slide, please. Okay, now if you look at a transactional leader essentially focuses on the lower levels of Maslow's need. I am sure all of you are familiar with the Maslow's need hierarchy for motivation, but we shall be discussing it again. So if in case you are not very sure about it, we will be covering it. Now, if these transactional leaders are more concerned with the process rather than forward-thinking ideas, and they use reward and punishment to gain compliance from their followers. And they always work within existing system, and they are primarily passive. And of course, the circumstances at times can favor them, but not always. Now, let me replace the word leadership with teacher. What will be the characteristics of a transactional leader? Okay, and let me be very critical. All of us are transactional teachers to a great extent, which means we cater to the lower levels of Maslow's need. We are more process oriented. Okay, we are more concerned about taking the class, about going over there, about covering the syllabus, and about taking the exam, about not making any mistake while setting a question paper, and so on. Right? We also use reward and punishment. Okay, we want students to score good marks, and we use attendance, we use marks, and maybe we use discipline, and we use maybe scoldings, so so that the students comply to us. And we always work within existing system, and therefore whatever has been prescribed by the university or the syllabus, we only concern ourselves with that. Beyond that, we are not concerned. We are not concerned about the students' welfare. We are not concerned about the fears and dreams of our students. We are not concerned about the challenges that the students are facing. We are not concerned about the aspirations that some of the students may be having. We are not concerned about, some of the blocks, the mental blocks that our students will be having, and so on. And of course, we are primarily passive. We look upon ourselves as victims of circumstances that we cannot do much. So that is another, characteristic we are having. Fine. Next slide, please. I'm sure you are familiar with the theory, concept of theory X and theory Y. Again, I am revisiting it in the context of transactional leadership. The theory X is rooted in certain beliefs. It is rooted in the belief, the first belief is that work is distasteful, work is boring, work is monotonous, work is something which you actually make a lot of effort to do it. The second assumption we have is that human beings are lazy and they prefer being non-active. The third assumption is that if anything is expected from us, the only way to motivate us will be to reward or to punish. Okay. In management terminology, we call this the carrot and stick approach, where the carrot, I mean, if you are trying to handle a donkey, then you keep a stick and you keep a carrot. If the donkey does what you want it to do, you will give it a carrot. If the donkey does not do what it does not what you want to do, then you will punish it. Fine, and you will not give the carrot. And fine. So many of us, we still, as human beings, but then this is the only way we find a motivation. The communication is from top to bottom. And of course, the leadership style is laissez-faire, which means, you just leave it. If things happen, you are lucky. If they do not happen, you can blame the students, you can blame the circumstances, and so on. Now, once again, let me bring teaching into it, because we are teachers and ultimately we are concerned with teaching itself. Teaching is distasteful and boring. Now, I'm not saying it as a statement, I'm saying it, this is what I have felt all around me, and I'm not just talking about SMIT, I'm talking about, across the country, that many of the teachers, they have joined a college only because of the reward of a salary. Okay, they find teaching very distasteful, they find it very boring, they find it very unexciting, and they believe that they have to exert a lot of effort to accomplish it. We as teachers believe that we are lazy. Okay, I mean, we also, it is not uncommon, like when I go to some of the universities where, the teachers are living in the campus, and I come across teachers, who come out of their home only, 5 minutes before the class, and they go over there, spend some time over there, and then come out again, and then again go back to their homes. Okay, so somehow the idea of being at their home and not doing anything, it appears very, very happy and joyful to them. Fine. They can be motivated through reward and punishment, which means if there is a punishment, that they can be thrown out, as it happens in the private organizations, then the teachers will be very, very particular. Or if they want, the motivation, it could be that maybe they get a higher salary or something, they will be looking for that. The communication in our class as teachers is always from top to bottom. We speak and we expect students to listen to us. We do not have the time, we do not have the concern, we do not have the ability to actually listen to the students. And fine, and yes, we take class. If all the students pass, it is well and good. If all the students fail, it is well and good, because I have done my job, I have got my salary. Fine. So ultimately, the same theory X we can apply on ourselves also. Okay, but then as you know that there is another theory, and we call it theory Y. The theory Y says that work is enjoyable as sports, music, dancing, or maybe adventure activities. Fine? That human beings prefer being active, that motivation is intrinsic, it is inside us, that communication is two ways, top to bottom and bottom to top, that leadership is participative and democratic. Fine. Now, again, let me discuss it in the context of we being teachers. Teaching is enjoyable. It is as enjoyable as maybe playing games or maybe going to a party or maybe being listening to music or playing more music or singing or dancing or maybe going for a trekking or a rock climbing mission, fine, and so on. Now, I do not know how many of you will agree with it, but to me, the two most enjoyable activities that I have been involved with, one is teaching and one is research. I'm sure you know that I have spent a lot of time in the industry. And from the industry, when I came over to teaching, most of my friends were telling that I'm making a mistake. Okay, they believed I am making a mistake because I came at a much lower salary than what I was getting over there. But somehow I had this yearning for teaching. And today I can tell you very confidently that I made a very good choice because I enjoy teaching. And it is something, it is so enjoyable that I actually look forward for taking a class. Human beings prefer being active. Obviously, we are not happy when we are doing nothing. Okay, I'm sure when you travel by the train, suppose it is a 24-hour journey, when you get down after 24 hours, you are tired. Why are you tired? You are tired because for 24 hours you were doing nothing, absolutely nothing. Right? Uh, if you look at children, okay, maybe a 5-year or 6-year-old child, you will always find that they are very active. They love doing things. Okay, I recall my own children when they were of that age. Either they will be trying to pick up a broom and try to clean the room, or maybe they will try to help us with maybe cleaning the utensils, or all the time they wanted to do something. Fine. Okay, so if children love it, my assumption is that your teaching is, I mean, your being active is very natural. It is not unnatural. Fine. Okay, then the motivation is intrinsic. Okay, I do not think that we do anything extremely well because we are getting a reward, or because we are if we don't do it we will get punished. We do things very well when it comes from our heart. Okay, when it comes from our soul. Okay, the moment we put a soul into something, automatically we start we start doing we get the motivation to complete it. In a class, of course, communication is two ways. As a teacher, it would be a sinful if we do not listen to our students. The students will be very shy. The students would not want to believe that you are interested in them, and therefore, very often they will not say anything. It is for the teacher to actually encourage them to talk, not just inside the classroom, maybe outside also, so that they can actually come to you, with their problems, with their maybe their dreams that they have, what should they do, how you can help them, and so on. And of course, as a teacher, your classroom should be participative and democratic. Okay, yes, as a teacher you have certain powers, but your powers are meaningful as long as you do not use them. Okay. The power to punish has a value only when you do not punish anyone. okay, or you punish anyone very rarely. And so when I say democratic, I mean there are certain things which you should not decide, which you should allow the class to decide. Fine. And the theory why actually brings the concept of transformational leader. And it is these the skills of transformational leader that I shall be discussing today. Next slide. These are some examples I have taken. I take Jamshedji Tata as one of the leaders par excellence. I consider him a great leader because even when India was a subject country, we were not independent. Here was a man who understood that it is not just about, throwing the Britishers about. It is about building the economy of this country. And he built it. And you will be surprised that if I choose the top 5 research institutes in India, and they are Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Tata Institute of Social Science, and 2 more, you will find that all came from Jamshedji Tata. It was his idea that research and innovation are essential for the economic growth, right? And he did it. And he did it only and only because he was a transformational leader. The other gentleman that I have shown the picture, he is Mr. Rajendra Singh, Dr. Rajendra Singh rather. I have had the privilege to work with him also. He has won many international awards. Now he's a person who goes around Rajasthan, which has scarcity of water, and he is teaching people to conserve water. Different techniques, and his techniques are not very high tech. He is using techniques which are which are a part of Indian history. And yes, there are many villages he has transformed. And I think that he could do it only and only because he's a transformational leader. Next slide. Okay. Now, I am sure that all of you have seen this movie, Chak De India, and I'm sure you liked it also. Now, this is also a movie of a transformational leader, a coach, and a hockey player, as a hockey captain of the country. He comes back because he wants to win the gold medal that he could not win as a player. And he becomes the coach of the Indian women's team. And he is given a team which is having zero motivation. Their only motivation was somehow to be a part of the Indian team. And beyond that, they had absolutely no vision. And they were very ordinary in terms of their outlook. Okay, they were very selfish, very self-centered, and they had absolutely no concern for the team, no concern for the country. But then gradually this man, he successfully instills a sense of purpose, a sense of patriotism, a sense of self-esteem, a sense of selfhood, and eventually the team goes on to win the gold medal. Okay. Now this was not just in the movie. This movie is based on a real incident where the coach of the Indian team, he had ensured that Indian women's team goes on to win the gold medal in a World Cup tournament. Let me narrate a small story which comes again from maybe it's a 3,000 years old story from India itself. Now, there was a teacher in a village, very renowned, highly respectable. Now, one day, suddenly a thought came to his mind that am I respected for my wisdom or am I respected for my character? So he wanted to test it. So he went to a shop and or you are a transformational leader, you need to have very strong character. Fine? Okay, now let me stop at this stage and let me take down some questions from some of the participants. Can I have some questions?
Yes, sir. Dear participants, chat has been enabled. If you have any doubt, any query, you can write it on chat box. Jha sir, I think there is no question. You can continue.
No question?
No question, I suppose.
Okay, so let me go ahead. Fine. Yeah, that brings us to the concept of transformational leadership. And this is extremely important because as a teacher, our only task is to transform. Okay, we are expected by the society to transform the students from very ordinary students to exceptional students, from very poor citizens to exceptional citizens, from lazy people to, people who actually enjoy doing things, okay, and so on. And in other words, it is our task to create leaders. Okay, each and every student of your class, if he does not end up being a leader, then you have failed in your task as a teacher. Fine. So a transformational leader is a leader who creates leader. Now, transformation the leader, as it has been given over there, they work with a team to identify needed changes, creating a vision to guide the change through inspiration, and executing the change in tandem with committed members of a group. Now, again, I read it maybe as a teacher. A teacher works with a class of students, identify what needs to be changed, then is creating a vision, a shared vision along with the class, and then guides that change by inspiring the students and by having a committed members of a group, which means the commitment of the students is also the responsibility of the teacher. And it is the ability to get students to want to change and to go for a slide. The internet is very, very unstable. Can we have a slide change? Okay. Now, coming to the transformational leader or the transformational teacher, emphasis on intrinsic motivation and positive development, right? Now, the motivation to teach has to be intrinsic. It should be inside you. Okay, it is
Again we lost the connection.
the student.
Sir, Ajay sir, we are really having a problem in hearing you. There is a lot of fluctuation from your site in the internet.
Am I audible now?
Now you are audible, sir.
Okay. So we were discussing about the moral standards, and I shall keep on repeating it because morality is the base of, it is fundamental to the civilization. Okay, whatever we achieve, whether it is democracy or political stability, or it is, the technological advancement, or it is prosperity, economic prosperity, it is completely based on morality of the society. And as teachers, we are expected to bring that
Jha sir, we lost you.
Can you hear now?
Now you are audible, sir.
Okay. The students have very idiotic priorities. Okay, what is important in life is not important for them. What is not important in life is generally very important for them. I was talking to a chai wala, and he said, he made this philosophical statement that आजकल के students जिंदगी को टाइम पास समझते हैं और टाइम पास को जिंदगी समझते हैं. So it is for us, the teachers, to actually bring that priorities to them. We should also bring in a higher maturity of morality in them. You may not be aware, but if you read psychology, you will come across the
Jha sir, we are again not able to hear you.
a highest level. Can you hear Shalini?
No, we are sorry to disturb you, sir, but your voice is actually not audible in between.
Yeah, I think the internet is terrible. Generally, we do it on MS Team. So I'm doing it, first time in
But
the Zoom.
Participants are actually not comfortable in MS Team.
Okay, no, I
We have
understand.
conducted one MS Team
Because
session.
generally, this Zoom is unstable for us. Okay. Anyway, one more important issue for us as teacher is to create an ethical climate. Okay, where everybody has values which are shared. Then we have to encourage the students to look beyond self-interest to the common good. Okay, students will be looking at their convenience.
There is nothing we can do about it.
The self-interest, and of course, as a teacher, you have to promote cooperation and you have to promote harmony. Next slide, please. Okay, now how can we be transformational teachers? First, we should be authentic. Whatever means we are using should be authentic and they should be consistent. Now, what do we mean when we say authentic? By authentic, we mean that there should not be any duplicity in what we do. And secondly, we should be consistent. It cannot be that I teach my children do not lie, but I keep on lying. Okay, that will make it inconsistent. Or I scold one student for something, but I do not scold for another student for the same thing. Or I reward one student for something. Cannot emotionally blackmail students. Okay, whatever we say, whatever we do, it should be on the basis of reason. And the reason is their welfare. What is good for them is the only reason. You should be able to provide individual coaching and mentoring to the students. Okay, I know it is a difficult task, but then we have to do it. It is our task. And of course, you appeal to the ideals. You'll be surprised that even the worst of the criminals, they have, they respect high ideals. Okay, they respect people who are. Allow the freedom of choice. Now, the freedom of choice is not about choosing irresponsibility to responsibility or insincerity to sincerity. The freedom is about choices in terms of the kind of assignment they want to do, the kind of maybe the experiment they want to do, and so on. Fine. Next slide, please. Okay, now here is, if you take the transformational leader can again be charismatic or intellectual or, the ones who consider individuals. You'll find that the success rate with charismatic inspiration is 74%. That means 74% times they succeed. On the other hand, the transactional leader, it is only 10%. Now, this if I make details of the teachers also, we will find that a teacher with a charisma will be succeeding more often than what you can call a transactional teacher. Next slide, please. Now, as a teacher, we generally want normal because we want to avoid negative deviance. Okay, just to give you an example, a doctor does not want illness, he wants health. A psychologist, he does not want mental illness, he wants mentally healthy people. Want mental health, he will want flow. The person should be literally be flowing with ideas, flowing with inspiration, and so on. Now, this is actually the problem across the world. We want to be profitable and not unprofitable. We want to be effective and not ineffective. We want to be efficient and not inefficient, and so on. Whereas actually, we should not be profitable, we should be generous. We should not be effective, we should be excellent. We should not be efficient, we should be extraordinary. We should not be reliable, we should be flawless. We should not be ethical, we should be virtuous. We should not be compatible, we should be caring. We should not be coping, we should be solving. Defined by your extraordinariness, defined by your flawlessness, defined by your virtuosity, caring attitude, and your flourish. Next slide, please. So this is the same thing. I will not go into the detail. I have already explained it, that 99% of the research is focused on health, whereas it should be focused on wellness. Fine. We have no research we are doing to make everyone able to run marathon or do 400 push-ups. Fine. So this is something this has to change. And as a teacher, we should be changing it. Next, please. Now, what is the meaning of positive change? The positive change is there are, once again, I'm taking you to the psychological concept. There is a heliotropic effect. The heliotropic effect says that every living being has a tendency to move towards life and away from death. Okay, so even your students, okay, they know that laziness is death. They know that not learning is death. And therefore, every student actually wants to learn. He does not want to be lazy. And so we have to focus on that. All of us are inclined towards what is life-giving. Then we have what you call the placebo effect. Okay. Placebo effect, essentially, just to explain it, it is a term in medicine. Suppose somebody is having a headache, a severe headache, and he goes to a doctor, the doctor gives him a medicine, and after some time he starts feeling better. But then the doctor has not given him the medicine, he has been given a sugar pill. Why? Why does it, it brings down his headache? The reason is that the reason is that your mind begins to believe that you have been given a medicine, and because of the power of mind, you begin to feel anticipation. Emotionally also. Fine. So they will be trying to move more towards, positive emotions, and there is the tendency to move towards negative emotions is unnatural. Fine. Next slide, please. Okay. Compassion. I am a great believer in compassion. A teacher is not a teacher if he or she is not compassionate. There is a concept of collective noticing, collective feeling, and collective responding. As a teacher, it is your responsibility to notice who's sad, to know. Okay. Yeah, so we were discussing the concept of collective noticing, collective feeling, and collective responding. So if anyone in your class is unhappy or sad or depressed or having fever, it is our responsibility to collectively respond to it. And it should be done within 48 hours if somebody needs support. The expression of collective emotions, okay, is very, very important. I had a student, who believed that he's not intelligent. And so in the class, he said that I am not intelligent. And I immediately asked the students that, do you believe that he is not intelligent? And the entire class, shouted, no, he is intelligent. Right? So I'm talking about that kind of a collective emotion. And then, of course, appropriate collective response when healing and restoration is needed. That should always be there. So this culture of compassion has to be built in your classes. Next slide, please. Forgiveness. Okay. Now, as a teacher, you have to learn to forgive. Okay, but then remember one thing, that forgiveness is generally not encouraged because it is believed that it contradicts high quality. Okay, it is generally believed that if you are very forgiving, then the quality will not be there. But this is wrong. Now, this is wrong because we have a wrong notion of forgiving. Okay, it does not mean pardoning, it does not mean condoning, excusing, forgetting, denying, or minimizing. Okay, memory of offense not erased for forgiveness. Fine. So the point I'm making is if somebody does a mistake, okay, whatever the consequences, that has to be faced by us. Giving the punishment is also crime. Fine. Giving is the capacity to abandon justified resentment, bitterness, and blame. The problem is that we do not abandon the resentment. The resentment is justified. The bitterness is justified. The blame is justified. But we have to abandon that. Okay. We have to be practiced forgivers. This is because if you are not ready to forgive, the relationships cannot endure. If you go back to the history, the French, the Dutch, the British had forgiven the. That brings us to the Maslow's theory. I'm sure you are familiar with the 5 levels: the physiological, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. As a teacher, you should be focusing on love and belongingness, esteem, and self-actualization. Fine. There should be love and belongingness in your class. There should be friendship, there should be intimacy. The students and the teacher should be looking forward to come to the class. There should be esteem. Okay, there should be freedom, the strength, the recognition, the status, and of course, there should be self-actualization where students actually want to discover themselves. Next slide, please. Have the next slide, please. Now, the next important aspect is communication. The communication can make relationship and it can break relationships, fine? Most of us generally as teachers, we have abrasive, insensitive, unskillful message delivery. And this leads to the students who are distant, distrustful, uncaring, fine? And as a result, the information that we provide is restricted, inaccurate, and defective, fine? So as teachers, we have to focus on communication, fine? Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm sure you are aware that team has 4 stages: forming, norming, storming, and performing. As a teacher, when you enter the class for the first time, you will have to pass through these phases: forming, norming, storming, and performing. Fine. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, the questions which the students, no, go to the previous slide, please. Yeah, the question the students will be having is that what are the norms? No, please go to the previous slide. You have come to the norming. Go to the previous one. Go to the previous one. Yeah. Go to the previous one before this. Yeah. The forming questions are, when you enter the class for the first time, the students want to know who is he or she. They want to know what he or she expects from me. They want to know what he or she is, how she is going to lead, and what is supposed to happen. These are the questions in their mind. Next slide, please.
Jha sir, you are not audible.
I think now we have to call it off.
Yes, sir, because internet lot of
Yeah, if there are any questions, they can be sent to me.
sir, yes, sir, we'll ask the participant if they have any query, we'll send to you. So thank you so much, sir, for this session. I know that internet has caused lots of problem, but I hope that participants actually have taken the crux of this session. Thank you so much, Ajey, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks to the audience.